Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world who are coming together to share their wisdom and expertise so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, and I'm delighted to be joined by my guest today, Alex Atkins with Sturdy. So welcome, Alex, to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you and your time. So, Alex, can you kick us off and tell us a little bit about you, Sturdy, and your role within the company?
Absolutely. So I've been working with Sturdy for I think 3 years coming up in the next couple of weeks. So time flies. I
Congratulations.
joined back when Sturdy was within its first year of building out what would soon become, I would describe it, the first business intelligence solution powered by customer conversations in unstructured data. And of course, the journey in messaging, the journey in our ICP, it has shifted a couple times, especially because when we founded this thing, it was before the AI craze kind of came about. And so when I first started at Sturdy, we were called Sturdy.ai, and I was doing some messaging testing to understand whether that resonated with our ICP. And folks at that time did not really like the AI term. And so we dropped it. Within a year, next thing you know, generative AI is on the scene. Everybody's talking about AI. How do we implement AI in business effectively? And so it's kind of been a fun whirlwind as Sturdy as an AI, first company has started to take off because of how things around generative AI have kind of taken off. And I'll get into that in a moment, a little bit more about me. So I was hired as the director of marketing, came on, became VP of marketing, and slowly transitioned into sort of VP of growth and ops. I'd say a lot of what I do is focused on tech stack, implementing new tools, ensuring things are running efficiently, operationalizing a bunch of these automations, and ensuring that the growth engine keeps kind of chugging along. And I do have a background in growth. I worked within the higher ed and ed tech industry for quite a while.
Okay.
And that was fun. It was B2C and B2B. I was at a few different companies, I think several ed tech companies within sort of a marketing performance side, and as well as just as general growth marketing. So I got to work under some of the best marketers in the world, which helped me both train my own skill set, learn a lot more about what I was working on and doing at the same time, be able to apply that knowledge. So it's been a fun ride. And then, of course, Sturdy being the first AI first company I've worked at. So it's been interesting. Small team when I joined, very small team when I joined, a bunch of really cool individuals that were looking to solve a problem. It was before AI really became this big thing. So it wasn't like let's figure out how we can apply AI to something, but rather we have a problem and it's best solved using this multimodal AI. So we can talk a little bit more about that, what multimodal AI is, or applied or synthesis AI versus what most folks think of when they think of AI these days. Happy to kind of get into that a little bit more if we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do that, can you share with us? You mentioned that you've shifted your ICP has shifted a little bit a couple
Yes.
times. So can we? Who is your ICP? Who was it, and who is it now?
It's funny because it shifts and then it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah.
So when we were first starting, I think our ICP was primarily B2B tech SaaS companies, because Sturdy is really geared towards B2B
Okay.
communications between your customers and your business. And so I was really focused on B2B SaaS, US based, specific sort of tier of ARR. But then we kind of transitioned a little bit more into the services businesses that don't have telemetry data, which is where I think AI and what we do is incredibly helpful because you don't have a product. If you're a services business, marketing or advertising, for example, you're usually charging, monthly recurring revenue. So it's like usually these monthly services that you are high propensity for churn. You don't know if people are enjoying your service because the only communications you have are through customers back and forth. Massive amount of unstructured data there that you traditionally can't, basically pull insights from. So we started to move a little bit more into, services industry. As far as personas go, it was really customer success teams, customer intelligence, customer experience. And that's where we started. And we transitioned ever so slightly, I think, to more of the operations side and folks that were a little closer to revenue and folks that were a little bit closer to analytics, because what we started to be able to realizes that we're offering this new data source that nobody's ever had access to in the past that really unlocks all of the contextual data in your business. And it's incredibly powerful. So we then realized that a lot of CS, CI, and CX folks were becoming more quant. They were starting to leverage more data in their decision making. And so we kind of moved back to CS in a way as a primary persona for us, but like CS ops, customer facing kind of operations and folks that kind of get the quant. So that's more or less where we kind of came full circle back to. And our most recent messaging has clearly resonated, and something that I'm going to be updating our H1 and H2 here shortly is, churn is not a CS problem.
Mm.
And that resonated. We posted something on social this couple weeks ago, and it took off, got a few thousand likes and engagements, hundreds and hundreds of comments, and we just ran a webinar on it this week actually.
Wow.
Because what we did and what we understood is that we have ingested over 2.4 billion words. I mean, probably far more than that now, into Sturdy. And these aren't, conversations based out of social media or the New York Times. These are business to business, vector based conversations that are all about business, right? So it's B2B vector based training language models, NLP. And what it was able to sort of determine out of the 2.4 billion words it ingested, this is roughly 22.4 million conversations, was that churn was not, in fact, driven primarily by CS and CI and CX. There was actually things like billing, sales, marketing, product, all of these issues that played into churn majorly, right? So I think it was like 27% of the critical churn risks that we saw in Sturdy were related to product. That's over a quarter, right? That's significantly higher than people usually think. And when they think of churn, well, turn to CS. They can handle it. That's their thing, but it's not. And so we're starting to get a little bit more data backed, proof there that we're sort of shipping out and helping people understand that it's not a CS problem. There's a lot of other teams that play into it. Retention is a team sport, and Sturdy is the solution to help you get there.
So Sturdy analyzes conversations across silos to detect churn risk. How does the AI work behind the scenes to turn messy data into clear, actionable signals?
Sure. Okay. So I'll get into that a little bit here. I think the goal, of course, of why to create, why to make sense out of all the nonsense and all the gobbledygook unstructured data that's coming in is because we really want to answer that contextual why. So if our customer is canceling and they've already canceled, that's too bad. We have to triage these symptoms. We can't actually be proactive without a tool like Sturdy, but not just like what happened, but why is it happening, right? And only then when you get the why behind the what in real time can you start to make actionable like decisions that prevent churn, boost retention in RR, and allow you to expand specific accounts as well. But to answer your question, so basically Sturdy ingests a massive amount of structured and unstructured data. And structured data is things that fit nicely onto a Excel sheet or rows, right? Something that is within CRMs, for example. Unstructured data is the vast amount of information that comes into your business through emails, tickets, chats, gong call, transcripts, like all Slack messages, billions and billions of words that you typically maybe read once by one individual and then forgotten about. But generally just kind of just this dark data, right? This dark unstructured information. So what Sturdy does is it ingests all of these emails, tickets, chats, all of the back and forth conversations between a business and their customers. It synonymizes and anonymizes all the information, right? And this allows us to run our machine learning models on a fully anonymized form. And by doing so, we're remaining GDPR compliant, data protection regulations, SOC 2, all that other good stuff. Because Sturdy doesn't need to know the name of your business or the name of your customer to be able to run, its LLMs. We remove all that information first, and a lot of what we built here actually went into that part of it, just removing all of the PII before we started ingesting those conversations. And then it uses entity detection. So basically, this is like more or less means that we take all of the structured data from your CRM and we marry it to the source of record in Salesforce with the unstructured data, right? So that makes it possible for us to say, basically, like, show me all of the top 100 enterprise accounts in my business that have renewal risks in the next 30 days, right? You're taking all the structured information from your CRM and marrying it to all the unstructured risks or potential risks that could be happening and only seen or pulled or extracted from the conversational data back and forth that you would never have access to in the past, right? And those are incredibly powerful conversations. Which of my top 10 customers based on ARR are the highest risk of churn in the next 30 days and why? Right. So, I mean, these are questions you could never ask before. And it would just, I mean, it would take forever for a human being to comb through every single bit of unstructured data to pull this all together. It's just impossible, but it's something that AI does really well. So once we've collected all this data and normalized it, married to the CRM data, as I was mentioning a moment ago, we run it through our inference engine. And the inference engine is more or less the AI. And those are the 30 vector-based language models I was mentioning before that are 100% based on customer and business conversations. These are not pulled from, social. They're not pulled from, Wall Street Journal. They're the back and forth conversations that have been happening within our customer base since we were founded, basically. And we have 30 vector-based language models that are out of the box. And these kind of go back to the product, sales, customer success, value. Some of them are sentiment based, some of them are more product focused based, and things like feature requests, bug reports, product confusion, things like that. That's some of the signals that we've built out of the box. But what's cool about these models, though, is that they're based on phrases as vectors. So they're mathematical vectors. So it can be trained on semantic meaning and relationships between pieces of copy or text. They're not what most people think of, which is like traditional search models, which are like exact words that you would traditionally see in your search. So like a keyword, for example, that's not what we're looking at. We're not looking at exact matches. We're looking at vector contextual semantic based search. So this is new. It's very cool and it's way more accurate. It's not like somebody has to say, I want to cancel for us to pick up a cancellation signal, for example, right?
Right.
Cancel is a specific keyword. We're looking at things or language that might infer that they are looking to cancel, right? And so it's far more nuanced and it's far more accurate, right? And it's very, very cool stuff. So in short, like each word or phrase converted into a vector. Vectors are closer together in the semantic space, represent words or phrases with semantic similarities. And that's basically what we've built at Sturdy. I'd like to add also one other piece to that, though, is that not only do we have these out of the box, signals. We call them signals. They're insights, right? But we also provide the opportunity for our customers to be their own data scientists without being data scientists. They can actually build their own unique custom signals because each business is different. And some folks want to track different things within their semantic language between them and their customers that other customers wouldn't care about, like competitors, for example, right? If they have a specific competitor that they want to track, what are they doing with their business? Are they lowering their costs? Are they, increasing specific products usage? Being able to track customers in that way has never really been possible. So customers, if there's specific, positive sentiment or expansion signals, that's something you can build out as your own, data scientist in your own team. So not just these like really cool business vectors, vector-based LLMs, but also you can build your own, which is cool. Nobody else has really been able to provide that before.
Yeah, I love what you guys do because it's like you can get in front of it, especially as a business, a company that, has customers and they're relying on, they want to keep it, right? They don't want to churn. They want to keep their customers as long as possible. And you're giving them the heads up like, hey, it's time to see if you can fix this before they're out the door. Because like you said, once they're gone, it's really hard to get them back.
Once somebody has made the decision to churn, they made that decision months ago. If you think about it, right? Like they aren't just making it at that moment that they tell you. The workings behind the decision to churn have been sort of in the works for quite some time at that point. If you could only just identify that ahead of time, then you can proactively get in front of that churn and you can block it. You can create some scenario in which you're able to retain a customer or even expand a customer, right? So to your point, absolutely. And a lot of people have been saying, well, I'm pretty sure I already have some tools that track telemetry data for my product. And I love the scenario. It's like, oh, no, this person's healthy. Like if you have a customer success platform, right? Oh, this customer's green. They're healthy because they've been using our product a lot. Well, that product usage does not necessarily infer that they're happy customers. They
Mm.
could be really like getting ready to churn and they're just going on to your product to take screenshots to try to download all the information and data they've already been, basically pulling through your product, all in preparation to churn. So you go from the green to gone. They were in the
Yeah.
green and now they're gone. There's so much information that has just been sitting there and untapped for so long. And
Uh-huh.
that's why it's so important for tools like Sturdy to sort of make their way into the market because now people can be proactive and they can actually see the truth. There's no truth like the customer truth when they're telling you straight from the customer's, voice of the customer.
Exactly. Exactly. So in early customer deployments, Alex, what were the biggest surprises or unexpected insights that Sturdy uncovered?
Yeah, we learn a lot from our customers.
Mm.
It's interesting how when you're developing a product, you have these use cases. You have these problems you're solving for, but it's not necessarily the same problems that your customers are solving for, right? So we started sort of to learn a little bit more about what we can do from our own customers, which is awesome, right? Because I think that's one of the best ways to grow. But what we discovered almost immediately was how quickly the impact was made, right? I think one of the most difficult things for me as a marketer and growth, leader in the growth space here is educating our audience on what exactly we do.
Mm.
And people think of AI, they think of generative AI, they think of this small input, massive output. They don't really think of the synthesis or applied or multimodal AI where you have these billions of data points that you're trying to synthesize into several insights, right? The kind of insights, the signals that we provide. And so that's not the AI people think of. So I think a lot of the folks, when they started working with us, they themselves were probably a little skeptical and unsure of exactly how we did what we did, right? It's also kind of difficult to explain. Um, I probably, probably butchered my explanation of the semantic relationships between vectors. I can't break that down to be a simple, I mean, you can. I mean, that's my job to make it more simple and more applicable to specific, use cases and problems. But it's really difficult to do. It's difficult to do quickly on a website when you have 15 seconds to capture somebody's attention above the fold. But I think a lot of people came in, they weren't really sure what to expect. They thought more or less what we provided was sort of this kind of like a CSP, customer success platform. Maybe they'll provide a health score. Maybe they'll provide some more information on our customers we didn't previously have. But I don't think anybody was prepared for the volume of insights that they were presented within the first couple of weeks of trying Sturdy out. We said as kind of a joke, there was a lot of headaches when people first got Sturdy because they were finally seeing things in their business that they had never seen before. So it's like a lot of cool insights, a lot of excitement, but a lot of headaches of like, why is this happening? Why have we been letting these customers churn when we 100% could have prevented that churn before?
Mm.
Like simple things, product issues, right? Let's talk about product for a second because it's insane to me how many folks think that customers are churning because of a bad experience with their customer success rep or, customer intelligence or customer support. The amount of inbound critical signals that we started to see within our first customers and to this day based on their product. Things like I was mentioning before, like severe product confusion, right? And they would start to ask themselves, because they were marrying this unstructured data to the structured data, okay, what customers do we have in onboarding at the moment? How many of those customers are experiencing severe confusion within the product? And then they were able to identify that that was actually happening quite a bit within a specific product line. And they would have never, ever known this otherwise. And because of that, a lot of the folks that were in onboarding were having these terrible onboarding experiences. And then they ended up churning. And of course, at the time, they're thinking, well, maybe our onboarding experience is terrible. Maybe these CSMs aren't really doing their job. No, it had nothing to do with CSMs. They do not control product, right? So these are the kind of things that started to come out of our initial conversations with customers. And that's why we sort of decided to deep dive with this study recently to really identify the true causes of churn because it's not a CS problem. And that's what we started to uncover when we started bringing new customers on board. And to this day, we've just seen that continue to take off. And we just want to educate folks like there are so many signals that have been lit up that have nothing to do with CS, things outside CS's control that are product related, billing related, over promising. One of my favorite signals that we have, which is a good one, it's basically if sales or marketing was over promising specific features or product options, to a customer that got them to buy that they of course then discovered didn't exist, right? That is not a CS problem. That's
Right.
a, that's a sales problem,
Sales
right?
problem.
So these are the kind of things, and you need to be able to align sales with product with CS. Like it does become a team sport. So if you're getting all these overpromising signals, right? That's an issue. One of our customers came on. I was mentioning to you before that these marketing advertising agencies don't have telemetry data. They don't have product usage data. So we had one of our customers that just sort of picked this up, and he said it was head scratching like the first week because he noticed that there was a lot of, negative sentiment, unhappy sentiment among customers that was also heavily tied to one of our other signals called response lag, which is basically means that a lot of the folks that were on the CS or account management side were not responding in a timely manner. And because of that, it was causing a lot of unhappy sentiment within the customers who were then churning. So they realized that response lag was tied to a massive amount of unhappy customers and customer churn, right? And once they were able to fix the response lag signal issue, guess what? They were able to, I think it was improve customer retention by 30%, some astronomical number within a very short period of time because they knew they were losing customers. But as I was mentioning before, they didn't have the contextual data. They didn't know why. Having the why behind the what is so powerful. So you can pinpoint those issues, fix those issues, and proactively get ahead of these massive, you know, churn problems. So those are a couple examples. I probably rambled a little too long, but those are a
No,
couple
that
examples.
was awesome. Thank you. I do have a question because you brought it up a couple times. So, and I don't remember all of the ones that you said. We know there's, most people are familiar with generative AI. Like we all know
Sure.
that. We use it,
Sure.
right? Most people are using it at this point. Multimodal, I think, is what you mentioned, and two more.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what those are?
They're they're synonyms in a way. Applied, multimodal, and synthesis are the three that I've been using. And I use them interchangeably. And I know that's probably you're probably gonna get some like really hardcore AI data scientists out there that are not gonna love that. But the idea is that AI first the proliferation of AI came out was all generative, right? Because we wanted to see something that we wanted to see AI create, right? And so basically what we did was we were like, how can we use AI or leverage AI in our day-to-day lives or in business by providing a small input, right? We all use chat bots and agents and all these other things to basically say, hey, please execute on this, and it will go do that, right? And whatever the output is going to be massive. It's usually a massive output. But the stage two of AI, especially as it applies to business, was always going to be the synthesis of massive volumes of data, in my opinion, right? And so I do use synthesis applied to multimodal, right? Pretty interchangeably. But basically, it's this idea that we can take billions and billions of data points that humans would never be able to process. That's not what human brains are created for. And we'd be able to take all this with relative ease, run it through, things like our vector LLMs, and then basically pull out, consolidate, and pull out these really interesting insights. That is what I meant by synthesis applied and
Mm.
multimodal. And that is not what people think of when they think of AI, especially AI in business. And so people are like, so your AI for CS, that's cool. Do you have like a chatbot for CS? Do you like generate emails for CS teams? Right? Like that's the way that the brain is working for most people when they think of like AI for CS or AI for customer intelligence. Right. And it's okay. It's normal because that's what's been all over the place, right? That's what's been blowing up and that's what people sort of associate with AI. But I think the more powerful AI is first off, not more powerful. How do I put this? I think one of the better use cases for AI is taking something that nobody's ever been able to, make sense of at scale and make sense of it for the purpose of retaining revenue and
Mm.
customers. And so that's what I mean when I say synthesis applied and multimodal.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and explaining it. So, Sturdy recently closed a $6 million seed round. So, congratulations.
Oh, thank you
Exciting.
very much. Yeah, very
Yeah,
exciting.
very exciting. So, how will this investment fuel your expansion into new markets and deeper AI capabilities?
Sure, sure. So we had a few teams truly believe in what we're working on, right? And Voyager, Fortson, and Grow Tech, they all believe in this idea of creating the world's first like business intelligence platform that is solely based on customer conversations, right? And so the application, as I mentioned before, like we're still finding new ways to apply this within each business, which is so cool because businesses are coming up with new ways to use Sturdy. But in terms of growth, I think it's really interesting when you get sort of this influx and you get this new budget and you get this new opportunity to go spend. It really comes down to a few levers, in my opinion, right? And I've been in a position where I've been able to work at pre-seed, seed, Series A startups, right? And they're different. I don't want to use the word playbooks, but they're different strategies because when you're small, which we are, and yes, we raised the seed round, which was fantastic. It's given us an opportunity to revamp product, revamp website, revamp performance marketing, right? Revamp content. So there's a lot of things that we've been able to develop and build out and scale, obviously more quickly because of this money. But at the same time, we're still small. So we still have to remain kind of, I guess, I'm trying to think of the right word. We still have to be a little scrappy. I like the word scrappy.
I like
Let's
that
go
word.
with scrappy. We have to be scrappy because I mean we're playing against some of the players out there that are CSPs, right? Customer success platforms like Gainsight, Churn Zero, Tatango, with massive budgets. I mean, massive budgets as far as performance marketing goes. So I can't go in and bid for the same keywords, within Google AdWords, for example, that they are, and hope to beat them at their own game. We have to be more scrappy. We have to be a little bit more. I guess we have to kind of get out there with a little bit more of a differentiated message. I think one thing that's always kind of like resonated with me is that as a startup, even with some more budget, if we want to really compete, we have to differentiate the messaging. It can't be sort of in this, what I've always called the sea of sameness. I actually picked that up from a mentor of mine, Pep Laya. To be in the sea of sameness within B2B is just basically the death of a startup. You will not compete if you're trying to fit into the same game that these other big players are fitting into. You have to be very clear in your messaging. You have to create a lot of value in the messaging. And then you have to be differentiated. You have to think of some way to stand out. And I think the best way for B2B, small B2B businesses like us to do that is to kind of go back to, B2C marketing, to try to get out of the B2B flow and just try to be a little bit more dangerous. Try to be a little bit more, I don't know, risk, open to risk, right? And scrappy. So I think we'll continue to work on performance marketing. We're going to work a lot on brand. I think brand is incredibly important, specifically for, seed startups. So a lot of brand marketing investment. We're getting some performance marketing investment. I've also been working a lot on outbound, and that's why I was kind of bringing in the whole sales and operations side of things as well. I've seen a ton of success in outbound recently, not just like email or LinkedIn outbound, but like a lot of dialing, kind of going back to the roots. And my first job was dialing. So I've been
Smile
there
and dial,
before,
right?
been there before. And it's interesting and incredible to me how, of course, specific ICP and personas will resonate with the outbound dialing, right? Some won't. But we found that it really works for our audience. And I'd say at this point, 85 to 90% of our net new business is outbound,
Oh,
right? Through specific sequences and dialing, email, and LinkedIn. That's not abnormal, I would say, for a lot of startups, right? Where, business is generally referral business, outbound. Because obviously, like, references and referrals, there's a lot of trust there. And that's how you get your first few customers. You reach out to your friends as well. You get some more customers. You start doing some outbound. You start generating some case studies and some quantifiable success. And then you start to kind of build out a little bit more inbound, a little more performance, a little bit more website traffic, right? So that's the way we're trying to transition from this like really kind of heavy focus on outbound to try to generate more traffic to the website. How do you do that? Really good content, optimizing for AI search, um, ensuring that, you're a thought leader in the space. This is what I've been pushing our leaders of the company to do every day. Post on LinkedIn regularly. At the same time, get your audience ready and prepared for whatever you're about to post. Thought leadership content is incredibly important these days. And on LinkedIn, I think it's a bit crowded more than it was before, but it still stands out.
Yeah.
And then I get to basically retarget the audience that is engaging with our thought leadership content with more consideration and conversion focused content to kind of work them through the funnel. So it's really important to start with that thought leadership. And there's several ways to go about doing that. But I think it's incredibly, incredibly important, more now than ever before, especially as a young company,
Yeah.
small company. These are ideas and ways to try to differentiate and not try to play the same game that these big companies are playing, because you're never gonna beat them at their own game. So
Yeah.
scrappy. I think that's the key word here.
I like it. Scrappy outside the box, right? Yeah. And I was going to ask you, how are you getting visible to your ICP? But you pretty much just shared that with us. So that's awesome. Thank you. No, that was perfect.
Yeah, no. I
You like
mean,
went right into my
it's
next question, which was fantastic. Let me know, and you may have answered this too, but what are some challenges that y'all have faced in your growth? Because you're growing, you're at
sure.
the growth stage.
Yeah.
You're new, but you're what challenges have you faced in since Sturdy started, or since you've been there 3 years? And
Yep.
how did you all overcome that challenge or challenges?
Sure. I mean, for us, I'd say one challenge is the number one challenge is messaging
Yeah.
and ensuring that your messaging is resonating. I think that's a challenge for a lot of new businesses.
I think it's constantly
Um,
testing. It's just never ending, right?
Never ending,
Never gonna stop. Right. We're
never
always
ending.
testing.
And to go back to Scrappy for a moment. So since we've launched, or since I joined the company 3 years ago and actually launched the website, got some messaging up, I have run a messaging test probably monthly. I mean, close to monthly ever since I started. Because you basically create this messaging test, you iterate, you find a best outcome, and then you test it, and then you measure that against others and continue on. And only then are you able to really kind of hone really resonates. What's funny is that I've been doing this. There's so many tools for messaging testing, by the way. At first, I was using this company called Winter, Wynter. And Winter is a messaging testing tool for B2B companies, and it's really good. It's not cheap, but it's really good. And so I went from that to try to sort of create a freemium version, scrappy version of that, so I could rerun and recreate this without still paying the same amount for each of the messaging tests, which actually worked super well for us. And then we were able to kind of like hone in on something that we think and felt worked, right? Then we worked with copywriters, the best of the best in the B2B SaaS world, to help us, create this H1, H2, and then a lot of our homepage. These are the right ways to go about doing it. Then, out of nowhere, recently, we had this post go viral, right? And what that told me within, because of course I scraped all the folks that had commented, that engaged with it, really kind of decided to do deep dive into the personas in the ICP that was engaging with it. It lined up with who we want to be getting in front of. Perfect. But we saw that this one thing struck a chord, this one comment, this one specific message. And that's gold, because that's a free messaging test that just got in front of thousands of people.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was huge for us. But I would say messaging is very, very difficult. And you need to know if your message resonates. And how are you going to know that if you're not testing regularly? So that's a big one. Absolutely. Making sure that, or ensuring that your messaging and positioning is resonating with your ICP in the persona. So that's definitely a big one for me. The other one though is education. So like I've always said that like what I try to do is half education, half entertaining. So like that's kind of marketing and growth in a nutshell, I guess, between those two words. But what we do is difficult, and to educate the audience has been very difficult, especially an audience that doesn't know anything about the type of, AI that we're working on. So maybe how you mix it, or the secret ingredients don't matter as much as long as the outcome is clear.
Right.
And so it's really understanding their challenges. What are their problems? What are their challenges? Okay, so churn, being reactive, not being productive. All right, how do we solve for those things? So
Yeah. That was all in message. One thing you said, testing, you always have to be testing. That's going to always be happening. I can talk to you in 2 years and you're still going to probably share that you're testing, because it's things shift,
Constantly.
people evolve. And so does, so do products and services and customers. And we got to be able to roll with that and evolve along with our ICPs. And you had mentioned at the beginning that it shifted a couple times, and sometimes it comes all back around full circle.
It
Um,
does, yeah.
yeah. So, and consistency is the key to that. And I think too, checking your ego at the door is important too
Yep.
when it comes to messaging, because I think we can all get a little hurt sometimes when we put posts out there. We're like, why is this engaging? Why is this person getting, like, don't compare yourself to other businesses or other people out there who are posting. Like, you do you. And as long as you're
Yeah.
consistent and you're constantly messaging and you're asking the questions, you're doing your market research, and you have a goal to connect with your people, it will happen. Like you said, you went viral, but we can't expect to go viral every day.
No,
Right.
no, that's one
So
of hundreds of posts. That's one
yeah,
of hundreds of posts, right?
yeah,
And those expectations. And to your point, by the way, something that I think that really stands out to me is also like be able to identify what is valuable to the audience. Be your genuine self. Check the ego at the door. Post consistently. Talk about first off, you can talk consistently about certain things within your own life or world outside of, business or inside of your own job, but provide value to the audience. That is the number one thing, right? And so it's not necessarily, yeah, it's not about opinions all the time and probably won't always resonate. In fact, it won't most of the time. But you will, if you are consistent, you're providing value to your audience, you will start to see the organic growth within your following.
yeah,
And some of the most successful businesses I've seen recently that we've worked with, that I've found to help us, have been through their thought leadership content on LinkedIn. That's that's how a lot of leaders are finding and discovering new vendors and resources these days.
yeah,
Oh, they know what they're talking about. They have a massive following. They're clearly very good at what they do. Let's learn more about them. Maybe we can use them, right? So I think that's something I would focus on, especially if you're a smaller business and you
yeah,
don't have the performance budget to compete. Absolutely thought leadership content.
for sure. So, Alex, what's next for Sturdy? What's the big goals for you guys for the next 12 months?
Sure. I think the number one thing is to continue focus on business outcomes and helping our customers achieve incredible growth in our R through both identifying proactively and acting on risks and opportunities. We're not, we're kind of trying to get out of the way of like selling features and dashboards. We don't really want to be your dashboard. We want to be able to, and this is something I've been talking about a lot recently, is people don't need another tool, right? There are so many tools in our
My
existing
tools.
tech stack, tools everywhere, right? We want to be the action. We want to be the automation, right? So I think what we're trying to accomplish here is consolidating every single data silo in your tech stack, pulling it in and creating automations so that you never even have to log into Sturdy, right? You can say something like, Sturdy, if one of my top 15, customers based on ARR has any risk signals firing in the next 30 days, send me a Slack notification. And now you're not even in Sturdy, you're just waiting on that Slack notification to come through, right? So I think what we're trying to build is the action, not just another dashboard that people have to look at, not another tool they have to sign into, but rather continue using the tools that they already use in just a way more efficient manner with far more intelligence than they've ever had access to in the past. And it's crazy the amount of intelligence that Sturdy is able to provide with tools that you've already had access to, right?
Yeah.
So that's our goal. That's and continue growing, right? I think continue expanding within the B2B SaaS tech space, potentially within other verticals as well. Verticals that are maybe a little bit more traditional that might not have tapped into things like AI yet, that have high propensity for churn um, and big customers. I think that's like a big open green space for us, because these days the cost of acquisition of net new business is continuing to rise. A lot of folks are kind of thinking and focusing on retain. How do we keep our customers? How do we boost our NRR? And I think that message that we're promoting is starting to resonate a lot more within those audiences because that's exactly what Sturdy's built to do.
Well, Alex, how can people reach out to you and connect with you and learn more about Sturdy? I mean, you've told us so much, but how can they check
No,
it out?
that's a great question. I say, the URL is relatively straightforward and easy to find, just sturdy.ai. So if you want to check out more on the website, my LinkedIn is just like linkedin.com slash, I think it's Alex slash N slash Atkins and as in Nielsen slash Atkins. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I love chatting about this kind of stuff. If you want to talk growth, if you want to talk marketing, if you want to talk AI, I'd love to chat with you. So feel free to reach out. And of course, my email is alex@sturdy.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So for all of you who are listening, if you're watching us on YouTube, Alex and I thank you. We would love to hear from you. So feel free to leave a comment below. And if you would love to learn more and be notified when we have amazing guests like Alex on the podcast, then go ahead and click that subscribe button because that allows us to alert you. And also share this episode, Sturdy AI, with anyone you know that you believe would benefit from learning more about the capabilities and their products, and not a tool, but something that can support their business in, reducing churn in customers, because it's cheaper to keep them is to get new
It's
ones.
cheaper to retain. It is.
Yeah, it's cheaper to keep them. So if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all the other ones, and you can hit that review button, please do. That allows us to know that we're doing it. We're doing well over here with everybody that we're bringing on. And we love our guests and we love you. And please let people know too about us. Let them know about Sturdy AI and Alex. And who knows, if you write a review, maybe we'll give you a shout out. That's what we're going to start doing, actually. So leave a review and we'll start shouting them out and shouting you out on this platform. The goal of this podcast, it's really near and dear to my heart. And we hear those stats that too many businesses, there's a high number of businesses that fail within the first 5 years. And my goal is, by bringing on our guests, sharing about what's working for them with growth and what hasn't worked for them, that we're going to flip that script and flip that number and help more businesses succeed than close their doors. So we want to keep more doors open and growing. What else can I share with you? Oh, I have a gift for y'all. So if you're looking to grow your visibility, Alex has shared what's working for him. A lot of things. They do webinar. They're on LinkedIn. They're posting content all the time. They're testing messaging. I'm sure there's other things that they're smiling and dialing at times too. Like they're reaching out. If you're looking to grow your visibility and you feel like you're trying things and it's just not working, then go grab our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint and grab it for free. Alex, is there anything last minute words or anything that you'd like to share that I didn't get to ask you or we didn't touch on before I let you go?
No, I think we hit most of check most of the boxes there. I just wanted to double down on the whole point around, small businesses. We can't compete in the same space on the same budget, right? When you're a large business, you have in this budget. For us, we have to be a little more scrappy, figure out how to differentiate our messaging and our brand, and never ever stop investing in brand. That's the number one thing for small businesses. So yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
I love that. Word of the day is Scrappy. So let us know in the comments, especially on YouTube or if you're on the podcast platform, and you can leave a comment like, what are you doing that's going to be scrappy today? We want to know.
That.
Yeah, love it. So thank you, Alex, for being here. Make sure you connect with Alex. You can reach out to him on LinkedIn. You can go to sturdy.ai, learn more about the company and the business and what they can do for you. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.